Hey, what's happening, everybody? It's to the favorite leather craftsman, the leather cowboy, right here. Premier Leather Crafters in the dirty South is where I lay my head. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting ready to do some carving. And I just wanted to do a quick video, real quick, on how I carve. Now, there are thousand crafters, tens of thousands of crafters out here, and we all have our own individual technique and way of doing things. And really, it's no different than you, ladies and gentlemen, because you would have to come up with what works best for you and your craftsmanship. But I'm going to angle the camera down. I'm working on the tambourine cover case, which you guys have probably saw in the other videos where I'm getting ready to cover this part. I just got through putting the new seals on, which you guys can hear. It has a nice high ring to it. So it was missing a couple, actually it was missing quite a few. It was missing quite a few seals. And that's these little, the symbol things that they're called seals. And this is going to fall right into that small projects that can make a lot of money, because this would be considered a small project. And what I'm working on here is I'm going to cover this up with the leather on top of the lamb skin. Now, be cognizant. I like that word, cognizant. Be aware that this already, the tambourines already, majority of them, when you see them covered like this is lamb's skin. Now, a lot of cases they are open, where you just have the bridge or the rim of the tambourine with the seals on, which you're going to get the same thing. But this works like a tam or like a bongo type thing, kind of like your drums. So you get the chance to use, that as a drum snare. So same thing, ladies and gentlemen, lambskin. But we're going to cover this in leather, and I'm going to put a decorative rhythm around this. Now, enough about the tambourine, but what I want to show you guys is my process of carving. Now, of course, in any carving piece that you're doing, you want to tape the back. Now, you can use painter's tape, masking tape. Painter's tape is the blue, or you can use beer packaging tape, clear cellophane. Now, depending on the project and how much carving and detailing I'm going to do, you can also use duct tape, D-U-C-T, duct tape. And duct tape is stronger. And the reason why we tape the back of the leather, now you want to do this on the flesh side, or the rough looking side, the nappy side, not the grain, not the smooth. You want to do it on the flesh, because when you're not just when you're carving, but also when you're tooling and backgrounding, the tape keeps the fibers of the leather tight, so your piece doesn't warp and get out of shape. There is nothing more detrimental to a leather craftsman than when you have drawn out a beautiful, nice design, and then you go to tooling. Because now think, when you're cutting into the leather, you're already weakening the integrity of the leather, of the hide. So now when you follow that up with tooling, backgrounding, beveling, and things like that, you're making that leather start to stretch. So the tape keeps it all tight and neat. So when you actually get done with all of your carving and your tooling work, now it'll still fit perfectly on top of whatever you're trying to do. So keep that in mind, ladies and gentlemen. Larger projects, I would just say do it in this degree. Larger projects, duct tape. Belts, wallets, keychains, things that are small projects, you can go with the painter's tape, masking tape, or the packaging tape. Anything that'll keep that nice tight. Now, I was out of duct tape. This is why you see it double layered with the masking tape. Now, you can see the rows in here. So what I did, I kind of overlapped halfway with the next layer of tape to make sure that it stays nice and tight. And then right in the center of my project, I want to, well, this is where the cross is on the front. I want to make sure that that cross stays nice and tight, so I came back and double taped it this way. So now I'm going to angle this camera down because I want you guys to see. This is a prime time to know the difference between the two swivel knives. Apologies, I'm going to try to bleep that out. But it was a late night because I stayed up late drawing this. But now we have two types of swivel knives. You have your square knife, just your regular flat, the broad one. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I have my ceramic tip blade. And now this one is on about a 35-degree angle, or angled ceramic blade. I love this blade because it gets into tight corners, and you can really do some nice cuts with that ceramic blade. Now, the one thing, if you're going to go to the ceramic blade, now they do make the metal blades the same way. I just like the ceramic blade. Actually, my teacher, and you guys have heard me mention Chance. Chance has been with Tandy for a long time. But Chance was doing a leather class when I was becoming a certified craftsman. I took the class, and Chance had this ceramic blade. Now, he also had another one that was a ruby blade, a red one. And that one, ooh, man, it was so sharp, it would cut like a hot knife through butter. But the ruby blades are expensive. I'm just going to tell you that off the rip. But you can get the ceramic blades, and they'll do the same thing. Now, one key factor about these ceramic blades, ladies and gentlemen, you want to always keep these covered. Because if your angle or the point of your ceramic blade ever gets off, you cannot true these blades up. Some people say you can, but I was told you can't. If you drop it and chip it, it's a wrap. So don't mess around with this one because it's not as expensive as the ruby blade, but it does cost. Now, your metal blades, which you can get those metal blades, you can get these metal ones for a different price. And you guys can tell I've been really using this one because I had to go back and re-tap the set screw, and I had to wind up putting another external screw in there because it was starting to twist and come out. But these blades, you can true a metal blade back up. So if it falls off your leather table, I don't know if your floor is concrete like mine in my shop, but if it falls off and chips, you can take these back to any machinist or any person that knows how to sharpen knives, and they can true that point back up again. They'll put it into the sharpener, and they have an angled where you can twist it to that 45 or that 35 or that 25 point, and then you can just keep back and cut and sharpen that point back, and then they'll turn it over and do the same thing so you can make sure that your point stay true. You can't do that on a ceramic or a ruby blade. Once they're ruined, that's just it. So let's get to this. Because a lot of people ask me, well, how do you know which blade to use on what cuts? So I'm just going to show you guys. And I started cutting this already before I said, hey, this would be a really cool video to do. So now I'm going to tell you, like I've been taught and what I've seen a host of other crafters do. Your wide blades, or your wide metal blade, this big square one, is for long cuts, long straight cuts. The long straight cuts. And you can see the long cuts that I did into the cross. This is where I use that wide blade. Now, once it got to the curves in here, then I'll switch over to my angled ceramic blade. Now, why do I use the square one for the long straight cuts? Because it also helps aid when you're cutting with this broad tip. It really widens the leather up so you can really do some nice beveling and background work because it causes a good separation. This really plays on to the depth perception of the eyes when someone looks at your piece. Now, this 45, the angled blade, now it's gonna cut now depending on what the thickness of the leather is, it's going to cut, and it can cut deep the harder you press down in there. And you can do a lot of, angled and swivels. I mean, not swivels, but different angles and rounds, and you can get in some nice tight curves with that. But it's not going to be as a wide enough cut to really go in there and bevel. Now, this is where you'll see a lot of crafters. They'll have a lot of different angled bevelers because they're using the angled blade. So when you're using the angled blade, you want a deeper angled beveler because the cut is not as wide, but it has to be angled high enough so when it gets down into the cut, it can really pound that out without jumping all over the other part of your work that you don't want to be beveled. It has happened, ladies and gentlemen. So just remember the wide blade, straight cuts, and it's going to widen that out. And your angled blade is more for curves and tight places, but you would have to use a steeper beveler to make that separation. Now, all of this, ladies and gentlemen, these different blades, the different angles, the angle bevelers, and all of that, keep in mind, it is the depth perception, and you're manipulating the eye's depth on your piece. You guys have probably seen a host of other crafters out there to where they really have that 3D type of look, and it makes it look like the leather is the design is jumping off of the leather. That's all in the angled blade, the broad blade, the angled beveler, or a smooth beveler. All of these are different tools and techniques that we use to manipulate the depth perception on the eye. Just say, for instance, this piece here. I don't know if you guys can see that. Yeah. All right, this is what we're doing, the free beer mugs. I'm trying to get this where the light wasn't hit it so hard, but you can tell these are 2 beer mugs. There we go. 2 beer mugs clashing together. Now, to simulate those ridges or those indentions in the beer mug itself, you still want to draw that out. So what I'm going to use my fine tip angled blade, and then I'm going to take a smooth beveler, not an angle, but a smooth beveler, and I'm going to bevel down in between the marks so it will simulate and manipulate the eye of the ridges or those indentions into a traditional beer mug. So that's how that's all used and played together. You guys, yeah, there it is. That's the better picture. So when you see, these are the simulations of the indentions in the beer mug. So I'm going to fine cut these with the angle blade, and I'm going to come with a smooth beveler and go down in between these lines. So it'll have that raised and indented portion onto the mugs. And so I'm also going to take that fine blade and go around the foam, and then I'm going to take a deep beveler to where I'm going to go around the outside of the foam, so it'll have that perception and the manipulation of the eye that the foam is overrunning on top of the cup, just like if it was a regular beer. Now, I'm going to angle this now, ladies and gentlemen, because I want you guys to see how we do this, and this is not going to be a long one, but I just want you to see how we do these. So now I'm going to come back and work with my angled ceramic blade and start cutting these long lines of the scrolls here. And then now, to me, myself, I like to cut all of my long lines first. So anything that's a long, even if it's a long curved line, I want to cut all of my long curved lines first, because I know that those are the ones that I am really going to have to use my steep beveler to make that raise up from my artwork and piece. And then I'll come back and do all of the top, like the top part of this scroll here. I'm just going to come back and hook that, and then that way I can just really take my time. But all of the long lines, I'm going to cut all of these first. Now you can't cut that with that square blade because it is going. This is a curve, and even though it's not a deep curve, that square blade is square. It's not going to curve at all, period. Now, I've seen some people, now I do know one crafter in Chattanooga, Tennessee, old school crafter. Man, he knows how to use the tip of that square blade. Now, that guy is great. I don't even know if they still have the Chattanooga Tandy store there. But this was back in my travels when I was traveling around visiting different Tandy stores, picking up different tips. I mean, I'm all the way over in Atlanta, North Atlanta, at the Tandy shop there, Birmingham. I mean, I've been everywhere with Tandy. But picking up different tips. Now, and that guy that was at the Chattanooga Tandy factory, leather factory, he knew how to work that square blade. I mean, and he done some awesome crafting work. I don't even think he had an angle blade because originally they didn't have angle blades back then. Now they had a more smaller, it wasn't as wide, but it was more narrow. It was still a square blade, but that guy was great. So let's get down into this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to show you guys real quick how we do this. And again, I'm just going to take this has already been cased and prepped. And another great tool to put into your arsenal is a stop stamp. You guys want to check out those. You can buy those at Tandy as well. And it's a stamp to where when you get to the stopping point into your Sheridan design, you can use that stamp to stop the flow of your artwork. Now, what we also do is when you get to the end of your scroll, start lightening up on that pressure on your blade. So you once you start, you want to start cutting deep. And as you get almost to the end, start easing up off the pressure of your blade and then just come out with a nice swipe at the end. That's just a good little tip to know right off the break. So you want to cut deep and heavy. And you can turn your work or turn your blade to where it best suits you. Now I'm almost at the end. I'm going to start lighting up my pressure and just come with a nice swipe on the end. And then I'm just going to do this throughout the whole entire piece. So right where we got the long straight curves, and I do this mostly on the scrolls, stickers, yeah, they'll be called different names in different parts of the country, just depending on how you hold your mouth. And just take your time. Take your time with your artwork and be deliberate, precise, because again, your cuts, the depthness of your cuts can determine the depthness of your beveling. And that's what's really going to make your artwork pop. Actually, I was on Jim Linnell's Facebook page, and I was asking him about the different types of steep bevelers. Now, Barry King Tools, man, he by far, and I'm not taking nothing away from Tandy, but by far, Barry King's steep bevelers are the best in the business right now. Now, you can do the same thing with Tandy's tools. You just got to know what you're doing. You really got to know what you're doing, and you want to make sure that you use the right grit sandpaper. But I was asking Jim Linnell about steep bevelers and how to really make your cuts stand out. And he but he posted back, which I thought was real cool. And every now and then, every 2-3 cuts, you want to come back and sharpen this up. Now, all I did was you can go to Harbor Freight, get you some jeweler's roots. And they sell these in a 4-pack. you get the white, the black, the gray, and then there's a red. Or is it red or green? I can't remember the colors, but you get a 4-pack for like $3.99, and it comes in a big long tube like this, so you can have this jeweler's rouge forever. So what I did, I just broke off a piece, and I come back and I take the backside of a old scrap piece of leather, and I just ground this down. And some people be like, why you do that? Listen, the old school barbershops, when they had the leather strop, when they was sharpening the blades, that's all that they did. There was a piece of belt leather, and they took the jeweler's rouge and rubbed that jeweler's rouge down into the grain side of the leather. So when they strop in that straight razor to give you a shave, that's what was on that. And you just want to do a couple of strokes even. 1, 2, 3, flip it over, do the same thing on the other side. Now that keeps your blade true. It also keeps the calcium deposits. You can see how the black stuff that's coming off the blades, that's all calcium deposits from the leather cutting. So you want to keep that off and remove, because if you don't, as you're cutting, your knife will start dragging. You'll see little jumps into your blade. So you want to keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. Now let me get back to my spot to where I was carving. Okay, here we go. And I'm going to come right in here. Again, all of my long curve cuts. And I'll speed this up in the video so you guys, it won't be a very long one. But very detailed. Now I'm getting into my flowers. So I'm going to cut deep, long, and as that curves off into my scrolls, boom, I'm going to stop right there. Now this is a stop cut, because the backside of my scroll is going to go right into that curve right there. So I'm going to stop cutting there. Now this one here, I'm going to come back right with this one. Again, ladies and gentlemen, there are 100 different ways to do this. I would best suggest that you watch or learn from every crafter you can. Every crafter you can, and sift the knowledge. So whatever one tells you, most of it's going to be repeat. Most of it's going to be repeat. Basic repetition of knowledge is the same thing. Is like I said, your square blades is going to be for long straight cuts, and it's going to widen those cuts out. And then your angle blades are going to be more for your curves and all of that stuff. But that's going to be general base knowledge for a lot of people. In your steep bevelers or your smooth bevelers and accent cuts and all of that stuff, that's where, people will start variations a little bit. But you can sift through that knowledge and retain and keep the best of it. And then you can but you can add 2-3 crafters' knowledge together. And here's your cross cuts here. See how that came into the bottom of that scroll. So when I take my angled beveler or my angled backgrounding tool, I'm going to be able to background right up into that cut there, and so that'll be all matted down. But you can marry, and that's exactly what I did, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not telling you no cap. I married 2-3 crafters' techniques together, and now I'm going to come back with my round cuts on the back side of these. And then I'm just going to keep rolling my blade right into those straight cuts. And that's just how we do it. But I married 2-3 craftsmen's techniques together and came up with my own technique. So, not to say it's my own technique, because it's not, but to have 2 or 3 craftsmen's skill levels coming together, that's unheard of, because everybody wants to be their own individual crafter. So I just kept it simple. KISS. Keep it simple, stupid. Said, hey, look, if everybody is liking Jim Linnell's design and everybody likes Chan Greer's design and everybody liking this other crafter's design, and hey, Chance taught me this, let me have a big old orgy of knowledge with all four of these great crafters, and I can't go wrong. Make sense? Makes sense. You can't go wrong when you're taking big name people in the business and putting all of their designs together, or putting all of their techniques and skill levels together. And then it becomes yours. And then I also looked at it as a way of paying homage to all of the great crafters out there. Because when you see a lot of my work, you can see some of Chan Greer's stuff into my artwork. You can see a little bit of Steve Yizek into my artwork when you start seeing the sunflowers and things like that. Or you can see a lot of the decorative and detailed cuts of Jim Linnell. Jim Linnell is about the best in the business, if not the best. I mean, he's the GOAT with this swivel knife. I don't care what anybody says. That guy is the GOAT with a swivel knife. Because I've seen him do a whole piece with just knife cuts. With just the blade. Just the blade itself, I've seen him do some firework with just a knife. And other people get off into the pictorials and all of that stuff. But anytime you can do a portrait with just the blade itself, man, hey, y'all go to Jim Linnell's page, man, and check out some of his stuff. And you guys will agree with me. So what I'm saying is when I added all of these people's techniques and skills, when I married them all together, it was a match made in heaven for me. And I studied different crafters just so I can keep adding to the arsenal. And it's not copywriting or not trademarking upon their work, because I'm going to put a little bit of somebody else's into that artwork too. So basically now when you see my pieces, and that's how I really built the business. I'm just going to drop y'all that free game right there. That's how I built the business, because I know by doing all of these great crafters' techniques and skills, and they teach us how to do this. That's why it'll never be an infringement or a trademark infringement or anything like that, because they teach us in these classes how to do their techniques. It's a win-win, ladies and gentlemen. It's a win-win. But anyway, let me get back to this, and I'm going to finish this up real quick, and I'll let you guys get out of here. Mm-hmm. All right, my knife is starting to drag, so I'm going to hit this. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oh, let me mention this real quick. Sometimes when you're doing a Sheridan design piece and your circles are going to be like with this cross, my circles are really too far apart from each other. So if you're looking at it, this is the top and that's the bottom. So when you're looking at this, my circles are really far apart from each other. So now the way to fill in some of this space is leaves. I think I mentioned that in another video. When you're trying to, Sheridan is all about more artwork, less backgrounding. Now the Vassals design is more backgrounding and less artwork. But it depends on how you want to do those two techniques. But in the Sheridan, your circles are generally closer than these because you want to stay with that S formation. But sometimes the artwork calls for these circles to be separated a little bit. Now, the way to fill that in, leaves, ladies and gentlemen, leaves. Put some leaves in there, whatever type of flower or that you're working with. Just drop you some leaves in there, and it takes a lot of that space and tooling work up. So now you're right back small again with your backgrounding work. Just a tip. Just a tip. See, you can learn a lot from me. Pick up stuff like that when you work with different crafters, or when you watch different crafters' techniques. You pick up little tools and little jewels and tips like that. You will pick up a lot of little tips. Drop you some leaves in there. And then the funny part is, now you're right back into your small artwork. And see, so now when I get the background, see when you drop that leaf in there? See, now my backgrounding in between the leaf and this scroll here, and then the bottom part between the scroll and that leaf, see, I'll be able to background back in there and keep it right on flowing. And it makes the Sheridan design pops up off of the cross. So the cross is behind it, and now my Sheridan artwork is on top. Different tips like that. Hey, you guys, I'm going to get back. I think you guys got the gist of this. So I'm going to get back to work, finish this up, try to get this tambourine player out here to the customer within the next couple of days. But just know, ladies and gentlemen, hey, you guys keep crafting, keep practicing. Take from me, take from somebody else. There is no right or wrong. Well, yes, it is. There is some wrong. You can do some things wrong. But practice and keep practicing will correct all of the wrongs. The difference between a hobbyist and a professional leather craftsman is a hobbyist will just keep doing it, until they get it right. Well, they'll keep doing it until they get it right. A professional will keep doing it until he can't get it wrong. Remember that. A hobbyist will craft until they get it right, and then they just stop. Oh, okay, that's right. But a real leather craftsman, a professional leather craftsman, if this is how you're going to eat, you're going to keep doing it until you can't get it wrong. Until you cannot get it wrong. That means, hey, you'll be doing this thing in your sleep. You'll go to bed one night and you will just see. I'm going to tell you how you'll know, ladies and gentlemen. When you start drawing this stuff out and carving it out, you will start seeing the design before you even finish with the pencil. Before you even start drawing it, you'll already see it, how it appears. That's when you have done it so much. This is when you hit your Don Gonzalez level. See, that's how I want to be. And I'm just giving a shout out to Don Gonzalez. Appreciate you, man. I watch your saddle briefings on YouTube. But me, I am still drawing. I'm still drawing my patterns out on paper. I'm still drawing them out on paper first. Now, this is just a quick tip and this is in your degrees of learning. Just peek the play right quick, and I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm still drawing on paper and transferring to the leather. Now, when you hit that comfort level where you like Don Gonzalez and Jim Linnell and some of these other big name people out here, they can draw straight onto the leather. See, that's when you have done it and done it and done it till you can't get it wrong. That's what I mean when you have done it, when you keep doing it and you can't get it wrong, you can go straight to the leather, save your money on paper. You ain't got to buy no more art books and all that kind of stuff. And then you can draw it straight onto the leather and you don't duplicate the pattern. That's when you have hit the big leagues. I'll see you guys on the other side. Keep crafting. Peace.